Right, hi everyone. We're here at WordPress Nordic and we're here with Arūnas, and he is a long-term WordPress plugin developer, a contributor, and a regular WordPress speaker. So, hi Arūnas.
Hi.
And is there anything more you can tell us? Is there anything I missed?
Yeah, so I've been a freelancer for a long time, for almost 15 years, but now I've switched to working full-time at a big company called Kayak. I work on their content platform now. It's still WordPress, but it's a much larger scale project. I also do a couple more things for plugin developers called like Deployer and Tryout that are aimed for WordPress plugin developers to do things more easily for them.
All right, and as we know, you've been working with WordPress since version 2.6. It's that early. So do you remember what was your first WordPress project?
As usual, I think for a lot of people, you start with your own blog.
Of course.
And you try it out and you like it. And afterwards, at that point, I was doing my own custom CMS, as a lot of developers were doing at that point. But after some time, I didn't really want to support it anymore because you don't get paid for that, but you still have to do the work. So what I did, I rebuilt everything using WordPress. So it made my life so much easier.
Well, it does make a lot of sense. And going back to WordPress, and we're at a WordCamp, as you know, and you've also been a speaker at WordCamps, and as far as we know, you've been a lecturer for 9 years as well. So what are the differences with being a lecturer and a WordPress speaker, or is it a lot different?
Well, it isn't that much different. It's kind of a similar experience. As a teacher, you also have to talk to a room. As a development teacher, as a programming teacher, a lot of that work is more hands-on. So you work usually in a computer lab. Mm-hmm. People are actually working and trying to do stuff. So it's less speaking and more showing and fixing mistakes of people. And when you come to WordCamp, it's more about just standing in front and talking. But it's still talking, it's still teaching. And in my speeches, I always try to have some teachable moments to show things that are new or maybe missed by a lot of people so that they take something out of that talk.
And do you ever get stage fright?
Not that much anymore, because that kind of translates also from teaching. Mm-hmm. Because when I started teaching, I was fresh out of university myself, and a lot of the students were my age mates or even older than I am. And that was a bit scary at the beginning. So what if I get something wrong or something? And it was so strange because they would be so like polite and respectful and call you a teacher. And I was just doing that same thing myself three months ago. So, but doing that day to day, it really makes you much more comfortable with audience. And if your audience gets a little bit bigger, it's not 30 people, it's 60 now. It's not that much of a difference anymore.
And what about people who would want to become speakers? Do you have any tips? Where do they start?
Yeah, I would suggest starting with the WordPress meetup because it's a much smaller event, much more cozy, much more friendly, and much more like it has a community feeling. So even if you don't do everything right, everything correctly, people will just laugh with you about that and not at you. And it's actually for meetup organizers, because I'm one of the organizers of Kaunas WordPress meetup, that one of the challenges that we have doing the meetup 3 years now is that people get a little bit bored of me talking all the time. So we try to find new people to come in and talk about their experiences. But it's kind of hard because Lithuanians are quite shy about talking in public. And so we have to convince them a lot of the time. But it's a very good place to start because then you can get the pride of your system to see that it's not so bad and that you can really do that. And that it's interesting for people, because the most fun thing about talking in public is the Q&A afterwards. Because,
really?
Yeah. Because that means if you have a lot of questions, that means people are very interested. The problem is sometimes you don't get any questions, and that means either you did a very good job about explaining things or you did a very poor job about doing that. Because either people didn't understand anything or it's clear for them. But Q&A is actually, sometimes I even plan my talks that I have less to speak of and hope to have a lot of Q&A afterwards.
Never even thought of that. Well, that's a nice way to think of think of your speech.
Yeah, you have a feedback about what you did and what's really interesting, because after doing the same speech next time, you can actually work that out into your talk if you want to make it better.
That's an awesome tip, actually. And going back to your speech, how do you prepare?
Yeah, I'm really bad at deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
So what usually happens is there is a call for speakers and there is a deadline for that. So at that point, I have a title and a short brief. So the titles I'm quite good at. I like to use sci-fi references in them. So the one I should have been doing here, but as a backup, since everybody showed up, I don't have to, was called Hitchhiker's Guide to the WP-CLI.
Awesome.
I have another one that's called Captain Hook. One's about hooks, the other one is about CLI. So those titles are quite catchy. And so I start with that. And if it gets accepted, then you start fleshing it out. I start with making bullet points about what I want to talk about. And then they become slides. And in that slide, then you also have bullets about what you want to talk in that part. And that's usually enough for me. Because if I'm interested in that topic and if I know about that topic, from that plan, I can talk. So I just use the slides as a plan and then just talk about it. It's also a good thing to rehearse. What I usually try to do in a meetup that happens just before the WordCamp, I'm supposed to do that. I just go there and do the same talk and see how it goes. If I'm too short or too long, or if something doesn't go right or people don't understand or things like that. And then I can fine tune it. And that's basically it.
So what we can take from this, go to meetups. Go to your local meetups.
I said that talking to the mirror also helps, but I have never done that.
I can imagine why. It does seem strange to look at yourself. All right. And so if we go back again to the speeches, do you have a dream event where you'd like to give a speech at?
WordCamp Europe. Probably, because that's the biggest WordPress event in Europe, and WordCamp US, obviously, because it's also one of the biggest WordCamps in the whole world. So those would be the things to aim for. I'm actually applying to WordCamp Europe this time. I'm not sure if that will happen.
Crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, so that's the one probably to aim for at the moment.
And outside WordPress, maybe, as you like the sci-fi references, maybe a sci-fi convention?
No, I'm not that geeky about it, but I do like sci-fi. I think it gives us, it informs us a lot. A lot of great inventions were first mentioned in sci-fi. The first mention of satellites of Mars are in Gulliver's Trips.
Well, that's incredible.
Yeah, and they actually got the size quite right. Yeah, but talking about conferences, I would like to probably go to something like a PHP conference or general developer conference, but WordPress conferences are more in the comfort zone because the room is very nice towards you and they want to hear what you want to say and they are positive about that. Then in the developer world, there is this thing that like PHP developers look down to WordPress developers and Java developers look down to WordPress developers and so on. So it would be a bit more challenging, and having a room that is not that supportive of what you're trying to say, it would be an interesting challenge, but kind of scary a little bit too.
Obviously, I think WordPress community is quite warm and welcoming.
Yeah, it is very warm and welcoming. I actually had an experience this WordCamp. I lost my wallet at the airport.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with all my credit cards, all my IDs and everything. So, and the guys were so nice. They told me how to contact Lost and Found. They borrowed me some money and showed me around how to get to the hotel and everything. And actually, the wallet is at Lost and Found, so I'm getting it back tomorrow. So.
Yay! Well, that's
but the community was very awesome about this. They really helped me out.
Oh, that's really nice. And so we've got a last question for you. We'll end on a fun note. So as you might have noticed, the logo of wpcrib is a duck. So what would you say does a duck sound like?
Crack.
Exactly like we Latvians would say, actually. So that was fun. Thank you so much for the interview. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see a lot more fun interviews like this one. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.